Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by the Lines and Play Picks, coming to you from Oakland, California. Josh Lander with my counterpart on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer. Another great article on a small slate tonight, only 3 games. Head over to playpicks.com to catch, like I said, Nate's article this morning. He's got a couple best bets, some DFS content in there for you. Nate, let's just jump right into this small slate today.
Yeah, I kind of like the small slates in terms of streamlining your decisions, especially for DFS. We'll talk about lineup construction later, but the 3 games we have are the shorthanded Clippers. They're going to be without Kawhi, Paul George, and Patrick Beverly. +3 at the Hawks, who also have their stars questionable. The Wizards are +3 at the Rockets, and the Knicks +11 right now at the Red Hot Jazz. So, Josh, which game do you prefer putting your money on?
I'm going to start with that Houston-Washington game. Looking for, sometimes you can find some revenge storylines. I'm not sure what the revenge factor would be for Russell Westbrook in this game, considering that there's literally nobody there anymore for him when he had his time in Houston that ended so poorly. John Wall, I think there was a quote, he even said he would be a little bit more motivated if this game was in Washington. But I do still like the fact that, neither of these teams have proven to really play defense. Beal is averaging 35.3% on 65% shooting this year. So we can continue to expect that outpour from him until he gets himself out of Washington, probably. And then, Wizards, just obviously, as we know, they can't play D. They have the fastest pace. They give up 121 points a game. I would say what I'm looking at is if you're going to take anybody, I do like Houston a bit more. I just don't know what I'm going to get from Washington. They have a ton of guys outside of Beal and Westbrook. That's their only common players that are going to actually be in the lineup tonight. But I am going to take the over 231.5. I expect a lot of points to be scored. And if I was going to take a team, I would take Houston, but I just don't like betting on either of these teams to win a basketball game.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much unpredictability here in terms of the revenge guys. Westbrook and Wall are both hurt right now, both played around 20 minutes their last time out. So you don't know how much they're going to give their team. Washington is down their backup point guards as well due to COVID protocols. Beal is obviously the biggest must play of the night in DFS. He can be attacked with prop bets, but 35 is pretty high, even with his numbers against Houston. What I really love is the Eric Gordon prop for over 18.5 points on DraftKings. He's averaging 24 points per game since the James Harden trade on a 26.5% usage rate. Washington really can't defend on the wing. They're going to be even worse with Rui Hachimura out. And so I think, the one thing you can bank on is a lot of points being scored with 2 fast-paced teams in that contest. So definitely something to lean towards in DFS and consider the over. Looking at the other game that we have some clarity about, that's the Knicks Jazz. We at least know who's going to play, the key guys there. And we know the Jazz have been on fire recently. They're basically the second best team in the NBA next to the Clippers, which are now screwed for a week during that span. They have the second best offensive rating, third best defensive rating during that span. They're scoring a league high 44% of their points on threes. So that's interesting because the Knicks are the top 3-point defense in the league. I don't know how much of that is just luck and how much of it is not running into a team like the Jazz that can really spread you out and destroy you in multiple ways. Obviously, we're shying away from an 11-point spread, but I like Utah to just dictate tempo in this game. And the Knicks play at the slowest pace in the league as well. They've failed to top 100 points 8 times already this year. So rather than taking the combined under, I'm just going to take Knicks under 101.5 and predict another Jazz convincing win for Utah at home.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those blind spots where my fandom might get in the way. I do understand all the logic pointing towards why the Jazz are going to blow this team out. But if I bet against the Knicks tonight and they prove me wrong, I will be pretty upset about it. So I'm staying away from it. I don't hate them to not even score 100 points. I do think that it's going to, I do think it's going to be closer than the 11 points. I'm seeing some things that might indicate, like you said, the Knicks they slow the pace down. They defend the 3-pointer incredibly well. And the the Jazz in that span that you just said, as you mentioned, shooting 45% from three during the season. That's been up to about 47.5 during this win streak. I don't think that's going to be as realistic against the Knicks. I'd feel comfortable with the under 213.5. But to be honest, I'm not even going to put any of my money on that game tonight. I will be watching it thoroughly. And the last game of the night, Nate, that I will also be watching pretty aggressively is that Hawks Clippers game. As you mentioned, both Kawhi and PG are out. Pat Bev is out. That means a lot of points for Atlanta, in my opinion. I do think, if Trey and Capella play, that I believe they're both still questionable while we're recording this. So that's what I'm going to monitor is if they do play. I do like Atlanta with the points there. And I would even consider the Atlanta over, which I expect to be at about 115, 110.5 in between those numbers. I still haven't found a firm number there, but that should be coming soon. I would consider that as well. Once again, if Trey and Capella are playing, the Clippers are already bad at defense. You take out their three best defenders, they're probably going to be worse.
I'm the opposite on this game as the Jazz game. I don't want to mess with the total at all, especially until we know if Trey and Capella are playing. But I'll take the Hawks pretty much if either of those guys are playing with confidence. The Clippers' offense really struggled without Paul George last year. Their defense really struggled without Pat Beverly. Obviously, Kawhi is vital to what they do on both ends. And with Lou Williams looking older by the day, I just don't know where they're going to turn to for playmaking. I mean, Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson are supposed to carry you against a Hawks team that's about 7th in net rating over their last 4. They've been doing really well, even with Trey and Capella out their last game. You mentioned the Clippers defense being bad. They're actually tops in the league during their 7-game win streak. They've just been pounding teams, but I think you take maybe their 3 most important players out, and I don't think you're going to see a big response from them in this situation. I think it's kind of like oh God, this is COVID year, and this team we've seen fold time and time again. So I would bank on them folding in this spot and take the Hawks. And yeah, so just thinking about it from a DFS perspective, the two games we just finished with aren't very friendly from a total point perspective. So I'm really just focusing on Houston, Washington, trying to jam maybe both those point guards in a tournament, hoping that they both see 30-plus minutes instead of the limited time they played last time out. Obviously locking in Beal, getting David Nwaba, Eric Gordon, even a guy named Garrison Matthews on the Wizards for some value. And then sprinkling in maybe a couple Knicks, Mitchell Robinson and Alec Burks are pretty friendly. And I just don't know how the Clippers usage is going to play out without all those guys. You could definitely take a flyer on Serge Ibaka, Marcus Morris. I wouldn't expect a huge uptick. And Lou Williams is your biggest risk reward play, but as you said, I don't know what's happened to him since the bubble last year. It just seems like he lost it.
Yeah, I would love to be able to take Lou Will tonight. I don't know what I'm going to get. I think Serge Ibaka and Marcus Morris at least give me guys who I think Serge obviously can score on his own. Marcus Morris is someone who can also at least, he'll be standing there ready to pull threes when necessary. So I think you could find some value there. Batum is someone who has proven I think he needs the other stars around him to be controlling the ball and setting him up. So I don't really love his play tonight, but we'll be good. We'll definitely be head to head tonight, Nate, to see who can pull out the victory. As we said, super small slate, but hopefully we are able to give you guys some winners today. If you do continue to like what we are giving you, like and subscribe, jump in those comments. Nate and I are having some fun talking to you guys about which games you're picking as well. So we'll continue to bring you all of this info during this crazy NBA season. Be back tomorrow for you guys. Happy betting.